everybody, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Self-Worth Saturday. So this is a brand new series. This is only week 2, but I want to tell you a little bit about what to expect in this weekly series that I'll be doing every Saturday, at least for the time being. So we'll see. I don't see myself running out of topics anytime soon. This week's topic is actually going to be accepting compliments. But before I get into that, just a quick overview. So each week when I do Self-Worth Saturday, if I can talk, you can expect that essentially what we'll do is we'll sort of quickly review what the challenge was from the week before. I will chat and babble a little bit at you about the weekly topic. I like to give some journal prompts to help you if you want to dive into this topic in your own personal journal work and sort of dig into it a little bit in your own self. Then you can do that if you want to. I will also have a weekly call to action or challenge. So remember how I said I would review it the next week? So some kind of challenge, some little activity that you can totally optionally participate in if it resonates with you as a way to practice, maybe doing things a little bit differently. And I like to end with an oracle card draw. So something that sort of ties things up and gives us something to, I just realized I have no, oh yes I do. Yes I do, okay. I was like, do I have an oracle deck nearby? Whew, I do. I almost came not prepared. But in any case, and then I will, at least this week, and we did this last week as well, and we may not do this every single week, but this week we will have a live chat immediately following this video. So this will be going up at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, my time, so that you can watch it. I will premiere the videos, so I will be available in live chat while people are watching. And then we'll have a live, actual live chat, live video with Peggy, where we can just sort of hang out, chit chat about that weekly topic, anything that comes up, you know, just sort of, you know, digest it a little bit together at 10 o'clock PST. So that is sort of the format right now, and I'll keep you posted as things change. Don't forget, if you have a topic for Self-Worth Saturday that you want me to cover, you can comment with it down below. You can email me at tarotwithlisa@gmail.com, or you can comment to me over on the Facebook group, Supportive Tarot, so you can join us over there. If you like this content, if you love this series, please remember to hit the like button down below. And if you are new here, please subscribe so you don't miss my future videos. There's a little notification bell that sometimes works, so I recommend hitting it if you want. Up to you. So just to kind of circle back, last week we talked about self-sabotage. And the challenge for last week, I've got my notes handy, but I'm going to put it down for a second. The challenge last week was to set a teeny tiny goal, something so tiny that it was ridiculously attainable, something that you wouldn't feel overwhelmed by, that would be really simple, that would move you in the direction of the thing you think you might have been self-sabotaging, if you've been self-sabotaging. So I would love to hear how you did with yours last week, and if you're in the live chat with us as we're premiering this video, feel free to chat about it there, or you can comment and let us know how you did, but I would be really curious how you did. I'm going to tell you how I did. So last week I challenged myself to write 5 sentences on my book, which is about self-worth. And I ended up having a really cool epiphany this week. So first of all, I opened the book document, which was a really big start because I knew I only wanted to write 5 sentences. So it took all the pressure off. I opened it up, and as I was writing or trying to think of those first 5 sentences to write, I had this like major light bulb moment. And I feel like I really broke past the block that I had with writing. I suddenly could picture what I wanted the final structure of the book to look like what I wanted the reader to experience, like how I wanted things, like it's really hard to describe because it's a picture in my head, but just sort of picture a spiral path moving inward to the center and then spiraling back outward, a little bit like a labyrinth. And once I had that image and I knew what the stops needed to be already along that labyrinthian path, but once I had that image of the spiral labyrinth and I was able to layer it with the other things that are going into the book, it was like, bing! And it was amazing. And I've probably written 2,500 or 3,000 words on it this week, which isn't a ton. I could definitely, potentially have done more, but I feel so good about what I've done, and I feel like I've got some real momentum building. And I mostly feel good that I broke past that little block. So whether you did or didn't make your little teeny tiny goal this week, do not beat yourself up. That is not the point of this series at all. But hopefully you were able to experience something just a little bit different when you took some of the pressure off of yourself to have it look a certain way. That's enough about last week. Let's dive into this week's topic. So this week's topic is about accepting compliments, and this was requested by Christy and seconded by Molly in the Facebook group. And I just want to take a peek here at what I have. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what this is. So It's pretty straightforward. Somebody, whether you know them or you don't know them, comes up to you and compliments you. Oh, you look nice today. Or, oh, you make me laugh. You're so funny. Or whatever it is. It could be a casual compliment. It might be a more personal compliment or something a little bit deeper. And we have, those of us that have difficulty accepting compliments, and I'll speak from my own experience, have this almost visceral discomfort, kind of awkward feeling reaction where we're like, and we want to push it away. That discomfort, that awkwardness, that feeling, and so we brush off the compliment, or we say something trite back, like we give it right back, like bouncing a basketball back over the net. That clearly I am not a sports person. That's tennis, I think, where you're bouncing. Okay, rewind. So let's say tennis. Somebody hits the ball over the net. I should not be doing sports metaphors at all. When you don't accept the compliments, like you're bouncing it right back at them, right? You're not just accepting it. It's probably the worst metaphor ever, but these rambly videos are just going to have to be rambly, and that's just the way it's going to be. But I feel like when I do this, it's very much like I'm trying to get it out of my lap as quickly as possible and give it back to the other person, because it is much more comfortable for me to compliment somebody else than to accept a compliment myself. So that's kind of the part one of how I sort of experience it. And the other part is that I also don't always believe it. And it sort of depends on the source, to be fair. And it depends on what I think the intent is behind the compliment. But it can be really difficult to just take it in and go, oh, thank you. And I'm working on it, like actively. So I'm much better these days because I know that this is my tendency, and so I practice actively doing it differently. That doesn't mean I don't still sometimes have those moments where it hits and I just want to push it off. And so I just kind of wanted to define what we're talking about a little bit here, and that it's difficult for so many of us to accept compliments. But also, I kind of want to talk about, I'm just looking at my notes because I had a note about this. Oh, so tangible examples. Somebody says you look pretty today, and you know you took like less time than usual to get ready, or you knew your hair wasn't behaving the way you wanted it to behave, or whatnot. We can immediately think that they're wrong, first of all, so we don't want to say just thank you because we don't think it's true. So we would feel dishonest somehow by saying, well, thank you, I do think I look nice today, because we don't think we look nice today. So like that's part of where the awkwardness comes from. And then the other thing here to consider is that it could be something like, oh, you always make me laugh, but you always feel really awkward whenever you make a joke. So then it feels like you're a fraud. And this comes back to imposter syndrome, which is a whole other topic. But it is something that we experience when we don't really believe what's being said to us because we don't believe those things about ourselves. And so thinking about how we interact with others, I kind of wanted to give some tangible action. Okay, actually, no. Before I give you tangible actions, let's talk a little bit about why it is that this is so hard for so many of us. And let's talk about the culture that we live in. So it is, for most of us, we live in a culture where it's almost weird to accept a compliment. It's almost not socially acceptable. I'll give you an example from the movie Mean Girls, if you've seen it. So if you haven't seen it, look it up. You can probably find this clip. It's a classic movie. You really need to watch it if you haven't seen it. But there's a scene, essentially, oh, let me give you some backstory. Lindsay Lohan plays a character who was homeschooled in like Africa. And she comes over to the States, goes to a public school. It's her first day. She has no idea what the culture is like because she wasn't raised over here. And she kind of is trying to fit in, and it's really, some of the habits and the social constructs that are normal are just strange to her. And it's a very comedic sort of take on the situation. But I still remember one scene where she was at like a sleepover with some of the popular girls at the school, and they were all hovered around the mirror in this like popular girl's bedroom. And first, the most popular girl like looks in the mirror and is like, I have such fat thighs. And then somebody else is like, my nose is crooked, or whatever. Like it's literally a bonding activity to self-flagellate, to pick on themselves. And you can tell that Lindsay Lohan's character is like, what are you guys doing? Like, what? Because they're beautiful girls. And so she just looks in the mirror, and she clearly knows she's pretty, and she's not worried about it. So she's like, I have bad breath in the morning. Like, she just wanted to fit in, and she didn't know how to do it. Because she didn't actually understand this culture of, like, constantly picking on yourself as like the thing that's you're supposed to do. And that was really, really inspiring for me, because I realized, wait a minute, we only think that we're supposed to behave this way because this is how we've sort of become as a society, where it's more socially acceptable to say something negative about yourself than to say something positive about yourself. So of course we feel awkward when somebody says, you look nice today, and we want to be like, oh, thank you. At the same time, there's some things to think about. So there can be the kinds of compliments that feel backhanded. That's kind of its own animal. So speaking from somebody who comes from more of a body positivity approach now, I really notice things like when people compliment you and say, oh, you look like you've lost weight. And maybe you have, maybe you haven't, maybe you don't care about the number on the scale, and that just makes you feel uncomfortable. That's kind of in its own little bubble over here, because sometimes people just compliment you in a maybe not so appropriate way, or in a way that you're kind of wondering if it's backhanded and they're actually like, well, you looked like bigger before, or you like, they say your hair looks nice today, and you're thinking to yourself, well, did it look like crappy yesterday? Like, what's going on? And so we filter these things through our own insecurities, or through our own fears, or through our own lens, and then we read the compliment that way. So here's a few things to consider if you want to change this pattern in your own life, if you want to start to just learn to take some of that positive stuff coming your way in, to take it at face value without necessarily second guessing it. So first things first, consider the source. Do you trust the person who's just complimented you? Are they somebody that if they came up to you and said that their sister had beautiful long hair that they admired, would you believe them, or would you think they were being backhanded? And so if I filter the question or the compliment through what I know about that person, I'm much more likely to have a genuine or authentic response to that. If I know that the person that's complimenting me is somebody that genuinely means it and would talk about somebody else in that same way, it's easier for me to go, wait, she probably means it. And it gives me that moment to kind of think about it and consider it and how I want to respond to it. I hope that makes sense. But consider the source, consider what you know about them, consider if you think that they're probably telling you the truth. Ooh, Peggy's having a sneezing fit. Can you hear? She sneezes like 14 times in a row. There she goes. Oh, and she's on the move. This is great. It's actually terrifying if she's doing this and walking in your direction. You're like, God, turn away. I think she's done now. Okay, so anyways, consider the source. It's really, really important. And if it's somebody... Do you hear her? I'm asking as if you can respond to me right now, and this is a recording. Anyways, we'll be talking about it in the chat, I'm quite sure. So in any case, consider the source. If it's somebody that you think you can trust, practice trusting that compliment. And that is a way to sort of shift things around a little bit. Number 2, let people make up their own damn minds about what they like. It is really easy to assume that something you don't like about yourself is something somebody else must not like about you, and that does not have to be the case. Perfect example. You might be feeling really self-conscious because your hair is being really frizzy today, and your partner comes up to you and like pets your hair and is like, I really like your hair today. And you're thinking, like, what? My hair looks like crap today, because you're reading it through the filter of what you think you like about your hair. But you're not trusting what the other person is telling you. You're not letting them make up their own minds about what they like. Maybe you're dating a person and you have really wide hips. I mean, I'm not speaking about this from experience. I'm just kidding. I totally am. I have really wide hips. But let's say you're dating somebody who's like, I really love your hips. And you're like, what the hell are you even talking about right now? Because your own insecurities speak up and you're like, but I don't like that about me. So how dare you like that about me? And that's kind of not fair, because we don't give the people in our lives an opportunity to like what they like or to believe that they like it just because we're struggling with that same thing. So let other people like what they like. If somebody else loves your sense of humor and you think you're super awkward, who are you to say that you're not funny to them? I think of people, there are people that I genuinely crack me up who are trying to be funny, but I don't think they realize just how happy they make me when they make me laugh. And I love complimenting them about that because it makes me feel good, and I want them to know that they're making me feel good. So let people make up their own minds about what they like. Don't take that away from them, because that's not nice. And it's always easier, I think, to work on your self-worth when you think about how it could potentially negatively impact other people, which might be a circuitous route to go, but if it gets you to the end, I say do it. So imagine, this is I think a really important thing and kind of ties into what I just said. Imagine for a moment that you had picked out a gift for somebody that you know really well, or even maybe somebody you don't know really well, but you put a lot of thought into it, and you give it to them, and they look at you, and they get really uncomfortable, and they give it back. And you're like, what did I do wrong? Because you just put this heart into this nice thing that you did, and then they just gave it back to you and seemed super uncomfortable. How would that feel? And when we think about it, when somebody gives us a compliment and we like try so hard to get it out of our lap right away, or we dismiss it, or we minimize it, or we say, no, I don't, or again, when we don't take that thing that they've just given us, this positive thing, we're literally like throwing their gift back at them. Now, some people, again, if they don't mean it or they're being disingenuous, this is why the number one is consider the source. Maybe they deserve to have it thrown back at them. But consider how it would make you feel if it was a physical object you'd given somebody and then they like basically threw it back at you because they didn't want it. And consider that that's kind of what you're doing when you're not accepting a compliment, and how gracious and loving it can be to actually trust the people in your life are telling you the truth when they say something nice to you. This last one is the hardest, because it's one thing to consider the source. It's one thing, what was my number 2? I already forgot. Oh yeah, it's one thing to let people make up their own minds about what they like, and it's another thing to consider how it might make somebody feel to kick it back at them. But the hardest part of changing this around is practicing complimenting yourself. So for a lot of us, the reason that it feels so awkward when other people notice the nice things about us is because we don't take the time to notice nice things about ourselves. It is so much easier to notice when we screw up, or when we do something wrong, when we do something embarrassing, when we, when we forget something, it's so easy to pick on ourselves and so much harder to notice the good stuff. I recently had an experience like this where I said something to Peggy. It's something I'd been actively working on with communication. I can't remember the exact example. But I said to her, I'm actually really proud of myself because I just did XYZ the way that I want to do it more. And I verbally said, I did this thing right and I feel really good about it. And do you know how rare that is? I just realized I don't do that. Like when this happened, I was like, I don't compliment myself enough. I don't notice my successes enough. I notice my failures, I dwell on my failures, but I don't notice my successes. And I think that this is so important and so powerful. It's not just, and the dogs are going to wrestle now. This is what's going to happen. Are you getting each other? You get her? Yeah, they're gonna, this is what they're doing. So, welcome to my life. You can kind of see Shayla a little bit. She's so black, she doesn't show up on camera very well. He's going to get her. Bruno's so happy without his cone, and he can see, and it's so good. I haven't given you guys much of an update, but he can see, and he's doing so good. He's got his last, not his last, but his next follow-up tomorrow. Well, at the time you see this, he will have just had it on Friday. But anyway, sorry, sidetracked by the doggies. We need to compliment ourselves more often. And that's what I was going to say. It's not just standing in front of a mirror and looking at a mirror and like saying something nice to yourself, because that never worked for me. It didn't feel real. But definitely noticing the things we did right, practicing noticing the things we do right, practice noticing the things that are good about us, because we can notice the things that are bad about us. I can't with these dogs right now. They're literally like, oh my god. Go, 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 go get her, go get her, go get her. No, don't attack me. I'm gonna get in this if I'm not careful. Look at her. She's like, that's him. Look at this. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to be making a video. This is my real life though. Okay, those are the tools. So number 1, consider the source. Number 2, don't tell other people what they get to like. Number 3, think about how it would feel to give a gift back or to get a gift back, and try not to do that to other people. And number 4, I hope I didn't get my numbers wrong there. I might have said 4 twice, but whatever. Number 4, practice noticing the good things about yourself. And it's going to be awkward and weird and hard at first, but just practice it. Just try to notice when you do something right, or when you look good that day in a way that you really like. Notice when a shirt fits well and it makes you feel good. Try to notice those things more, and if possible, say them to somebody. Like, text your bestie and say, dang, I look good today. Or text your partner and say, like, I'm feeling really good about this thing I just accomplished at work. Like, compliment yourself more often. That's my advice. And finally, let me give you a few journal prompts to consider that will hopefully help you to dive a little deeper into this topic for yourself. So number 1, what compliments do you find it most difficult to simply accept? Like, what kind? Which are the most uncomfortable for you? And why do you think that is? So that's our first journal prompt. Second journal prompt, what compliments are a bit easier to swallow, if any, and why do you think that is? And number 3, do you ever compliment yourself? And if so, how does it make you feel? If not, what do you think about the idea? Like, explore this in writing if that is your jam. Let's draw an oracle card. So that, oh, before I draw the oracle card, here's your challenge for the week. I gotta do this too. I'm not exempt. That's the word I was looking for. So this week, compliment at least two, I had to write it down because I have the worst memory. Compliment at least 2 people at a time when you feel like you're generally moved to do that. If you're not genuinely moved to compliment people, like, don't force it. But if you get an opportunity to notice how somebody's making you feel, or whatnot, and you want to compliment somebody, try to compliment at least 2 people in a genuine way, but notice how they respond. And just consider that and think about it, and think about how, I'm trying to figure out how to word this because I just made notes for myself, but think about how their response makes you feel. Did they model what it looks like to accept a compliment, or did they shove it back at you? And if they did, how did that feel? And then just think about it. It's just about noticing and observing more than anything else. Let's see what this week's oracle card is. This is the Whispers of Lord Ganesha because it is what I had handy. And yeah, so we will see you at 10 for a live chat. Don't forget. Here we go. Let's see what we are going to draw today. Ha! Okay, I cannot make this up. Acceptance. You saw me shuffling. I did not stack the deck, I swear. It was super synchronistic last week too. This is so cool. So, acceptance. This is literally, I'm gonna read what the guidebook says. What number is this? 39, but I love it. I might not read the whole thing. I'm gonna read the quote here. There is great freedom in accepting things as they are. You cannot move forward on your path until you release some of the blame, anger, and sorrow that you have collected on your life's journey. Ganesha is asking you to forgive those from the past who have hurt you and to be willing to forgive yourself too. Open your heart to the world outside and to the one within. The deeper state of recognition and acceptance is what pushes you forward in your spiritual adventure. Now, I see this card, especially with Ganesha's big round belly here, about self-acceptance and about being yourself, allowing you to exist without muting or turning down the volume. So this week, really practice stepping into the fullness of who you are. Own it, strut it, accept those compliments, and let me know how you did next week with our challenge of complimenting others. Before I forget, one last thing. Don't forget to repeat to yourself as often as possible, I am worthy and I am unafraid. Bye all.